Jake Lunt, COO of HelpSide. I've been here since January of 2003, so I'm into my 24th year. My core functions are really to support our leadership teams, making sure that our leaders have the resources they need to drive the business results we're hoping for. I work directly with our HR team, with IT, with our sales team, and with marketing. You, Amanda, I work with you. Although, I'm not sure I do. I think I work for you. Is that how that works? Yeah, there you go. Well, I like working for HelpSide today for the same reasons that I did when I started. HelpSide focuses on the people at the company. We have incredibly skilled leaders that have been here forever. I mean, some of them longer than 30 years. So I know them, I know their families, we work well together. I appreciate being around people who have a shared interest in making sure that our clients are legitimately well cared for and that we're providing solutions that make it easier for them to operate their businesses. How I came to HelpSide was a familiarity with the founder and the leadership at the time. And by familiarity, I mean a family relationship. So Larry, one of the founders, had 8 children. You all know Rick. Rick was the first, John second, and the 7th is Tanya. And Tanya is my wife. So I was I'd married into the family. I was working for a company up north in Utah, and I wasn't having a great experience with it. I was at a family meal and explaining the environment I was working in and some of my frustrations. And Rick said, hey, you should come and interview for our sales team. As you can imagine, I said no, because working for your in-laws seemed like a bad way to cultivate a long-standing positive relationship. It was a little while later that he brought it up again. And so I interviewed, was hired into our sales team, worked in that team for about 2 years before going to grad school. I was doing an internship at Intel as part of my studies up in Oregon. I did not love working on a project that is this narrow in a sea of cubicles every day. I finished that internship, got a job offer to return to Intel in California. When Rick called and asked if me and a couple of the other students in my group would perform kind of a market expansion study for HelpSide. We started in that process, and as part of it, we returned and said, okay, we think you should go into Idaho, and you should let us do that. It didn't make sense to hire 3 MBAs to open Idaho. Rick wisely said, that would be awesome, but only one of you. And the 2 friends that were working on the project with me said, well, we don't know a lot about PEO, you do. And so I took that job, moved to Idaho, and the rest is history, I suppose. I was in Idaho for 3 years and then was asked to come back to Utah and start our client success management team. We'd been running all of our client services out of our HR department at the time. We wanted to be more focused in that area. And so I moved back with my family here. I was our director of client accounts for 2 years before I became the COO. That was in 2010. It's been awesome. It has, I think, enriched my life in every way. I've appreciated the people I've got to work for, the passion of the people within our organization, and have been particularly influenced by the courage of the small business owners that I've been able to interact with. I think one that I've enjoyed the most is getting all of our leaders together and trying to dissolve the traditional silos that exist in most organizations, to get leaders to work together to solve problems that impact all of the departments and help us to grow and to deliver better product to our clients. I think I've maintained the momentum that was already built related to focusing on the client and helping business owners really succeed. There's a long history of that already. And I've loved that as we've grown, we haven't lost that. We've focused on the growth, but made sure to embed into our culture and into our processes the people that we're taking care of. As a third thing, I've been really pleased to have been part of the growth of the company and our sales engine, and having a sales engine that is so well supported by the service model in the company that they have been kind of mutually beneficial to help with growth. Historically, about 70% of our year-over-year growth has been from client referrals. So I'm thrilled that the service side of the organization has done a good enough job to significantly improve the sales side. I think that's been because we focused on the client's real needs and delivered solutions that matter. I'll be most proud of how good our leaders are, and that they were facilitated in their skill development and in achieving a meaningful outcome, that they, I think, will be able to say that they made a real difference, that they contributed to the success of the small business community in our communities, that our communities became better, that business owners advanced their dreams and hopes because of the quality work that they did. I'll be proud that we genuinely loved our people. I think a shared interest, a genuine selflessness and shared interest in the growth, development, and success of other people. That has struck me as I've interacted with so many small businesses, and as I think back on other jobs I've had. To have a group of leaders that genuinely try to highlight the positives of other people instead of themselves, that don't seem stuck in self-aggrandizement or trying to defend their turf, that has made a big difference. So there's always people looking to share praise, or actually probably push praise off onto other people. One of our core values is humility. I think it's not just a stated value, I think it's legitimate. And that makes, I think, our leaders particularly good. What drew me to HelpSide originally and keeps me here is a genuine focus on the success of small businesses. It is not lip service. We want them to succeed. As a client or not as a client, it doesn't matter. The backbone of the US economy, the backbone of our Utah community are these courageous, incredibly tenacious small business owners. It is such a hard job. And so as I started to work with them and admire the things they were doing, to come back to the office and put together solutions that would help them in some meaningful way, made all the difference for me. Every day you come to work, you feel like you're doing something that matters. And sure, we're running payroll and we're doing benefits administration and some HR tasks, and those jobs may not always be the most appealing to everybody. And that's primarily why business owners kind of neglect them, even though they're critical to the culture development of the company and to the success of the organization and their employees. So to be a part of that job that owners may not be eager to engage in, but that matters so much, has been awesome. And then to have a company that focuses on those business owners and their specific day-to-day challenges makes this particularly meaningful. I'm not just putting out templates, we're putting real people, talking to real people that need help, and we're helping. And I think that's awesome. What I have loved about the company is that our individual leaders in their spaces who are closest to the client and the need of that client are empowered to develop solutions that matter. You referenced Jason in a specific payroll solution for a client that was in a challenging situation. He is capable of saying, okay, what can I do for this client? What can we do to meet that client's needs? And then have a more customized approach to that group. It would be far easier to say, this is the one-size-fits-all solution. Every client needs to comply with this box that we've built, and as long as you do, it's great. There's no small business that fits in the same box as another. Every one of them is dealing with nuances that are challenging. Every one of them has, due to the nature of their industry, specific unique challenges. Well, really just due to the nature of their specific employees, because those employees are what dictate the solution that needs to be delivered. What is it that that employee needs to love their job and succeed in their job? And it's different in every circumstance. So I love that our leaders can look at that circumstance, thoughtfully consider the desired outcome, thoughtfully consider the desired objective, and then tailor fit a solution to achieve that outcome. I think that is what I have tried as a leader to cultivate, is that type of behavior throughout the organization that delivers the best solution for our clients and their employees. If you go way back in time to when Larry and BJ started this company, and if you could sit and talk to Larry, you would unquestionably walk away from the conversation with one clear reality, is that he loves people. He genuinely just cares about people. And that was, however it was done, it was infused into his children. So when Rick and John took over the company as CEO and CFO in 1997, it was core to who they were too. So how we keep that value there is we try to always just remember people. In the grind of operating a business, there's a lot of tasks that need done, and all those tasks generally have somebody that's influenced in the process. By remembering the people, we keep this value always at top of mind. You're not going to find an org chart that starts with the position, then the person's name. You're going to know the person, and then whatever they do is secondary. We try very hard to continue to focus on people. Even as we grow, it does get challenging. Some days we do better than others, if we're being honest, but that I think is what's made it. That's what helped us to retain our focus on our value. The success of our business will have everything to do with the vision of our clients. If we're helping them achieve their vision, the company will grow and succeed. If we focus on our vision, I don't think it has the same impact, and it's not as meaningful. People love to help people. They want to help other people achieve their goals. The most joy we're going to experience, you or me or anybody in our lives, is when somebody else succeeds because we helped. So why doesn't HelpSide talk about that? Because it's really not about us. We built our whole company to try to help other people win. To the extent that we've done that, we have grown. When we have forgotten that, we haven't. Luckily, we've remembered more than we've forgotten, but I think that is the constant threat to any organization. They start to look in, they start to pull in, they start to worry about them instead of worrying about who they're trying to provide a solution or a product for, and in that, they lose their way. Again, one of our core values is humility. And some days we've completely failed to realize it. But if we'll remember that our goal is to help others and not worry about ourselves so much, we'll be successful. So yeah, we have a hard time just talking about it. And I think a whole bunch of leaders here, they're very, very good at their jobs, and they're content with knowing it and not having everyone else know it. And actually, it's one of the things that makes this a great place to work. I love the courage of the small business owner, the tenacity, the willingness to risk so much to try to realize a dream. Almost every small business owner I've talked to thinks they can provide a great solution or service that will help somebody, that will make life better for somebody. I think a lot of them want to make some money doing that, but they generally start from a place of improving the community they live in and owning the risk and reward attached to the hard job of starting a company. I love that we work with groups where our solution can make a meaningful impact. When I work for large companies, you go in, you do this very finite job. Your impact is almost totally unseen. It's almost completely unrealized. I love when we survey our clients yearly and they talk to us about how we helped them to achieve their dream. So I want to work in environments where you make a difference. And the small business community and the small business owner, we make a difference in their business. But these owners are the same people that coach our kids' teams, that teach dance to our daughters. That's awesome. It becomes a really a virtuous cycle. We're helping small businesses that are helping us and helping our neighbors, which then help them. And this thing spins up and makes the local American community what it is. And I really like that. I believe that it's an obligation for all of us as human beings to try to love other human beings, to do our best to make the world a little bit better. I think that's what small business owners are trying to do generally. Introduce a product or a service that would help somebody. And they do a remarkably good job of that. And as we're out trying to make a product or service that's helping humans, we should start with the people that are doing that with us. Whoever we've brought into our organization, let's try to make their lives better. If we do that, we will always remember the human side of human resources. We won't see them as robots at a manufacturing plant that need to crank out a product. We'll understand that they have families, that they have real needs and desires that they're trying to accomplish or they're trying to fulfill by going to work every day, and that those things are the real meaning behind or that they're the real engine that makes our communities what they are. It's just a combination of a lot of people doing the best they can to love other people. That's why I like being in the human resources industry and why I particularly like working here. I think HelpSide remembers that. Oh, at least in our good moments we do. Sometimes it's hard, but for the most part, they do a great job. I think in business, business it often just drifts into the very tactical, practical side of things. It should be logical. And now, while there is certainly a lot of science behind how taking care of others will bless your lives, it still feels like that's not an overly common business thought. So it's core to who we are. We believe that there's divinity in every human being. So if we remember that, we stay out of the people as processes type thought and retain the humanity that we hope exists in anywhere we work or anywhere we go. If you're a business owner and you're operating in this kind of hyper-competitive environment where when you're around your other business owner friends, they're not asking you about what you did for your people. They're asking you about your EBITDA. They're asking about your multiple. They're asking about your scale. They're asking about the efficiencies you've generated. They're asking about a whole bunch of things that start to make people feel like processes or people to feel like machines. And I think it's so easy in this type of business environment to make people machines. Like, did we wring another 5% efficiency out of that person? Were we able to work as an organization and get 10% more revenue with only 3% growth in our employees? Were we able to automate that process in a way that we don't need a person to do it anymore? Now, certainly, that is the modern world. We still have to automate. You still have to move some things forward. But in that thought process, it's so easy to make the people just a part of that system. It's easy to distance ourselves from them. So that when we have to get to a decision about how do I automate this, that it's easy for me and doesn't cause me emotional turmoil in that process. If you take the emotion out of being a business owner away, well, you probably shouldn't. You should stop being a business owner. Well, you shouldn't be in the business of employing people. That's not that job. That job is to care about people. Help them to achieve goals. Help them to help you achieve your objectives, but not to treat them like a machine. We're not machines. Let's refuse to be machines. Well, I wish we could say we're good at it all the time. It's really hard because you still have an obligation to your stakeholders. You have obligations to the market. And those obligations, if we don't watch ourselves closely, will overwhelm our obligation to love people, which is, in my view, the highest of obligations, the only one that really matters. Now, it runs in strong tension with the requirements of operating a good business. Business owners should not be obligated to keep employees that are not achieving shared goals or that aren't contributing to them. They're not obligated to keep them. And so it creates this real philosophical, psychological tension in operating a business that you have to try to manage through and work with. But I remember a meeting while I was here. I just started in a new role, and I had a team. And there was an individual on the team that was not performing very well. I was a younger leader. And after some processes, some performance improvement plan implementation and trying to work through that, the results were not there. And it became evident that we were going to need to let this individual go. And we brought her into a meeting, me and at the time our vice president of human resources. And I did the job by the textbook. I had my sheet out. I walked through it. I explained things in a very mechanical way. I was ridiculously nervous. I felt horrible, as I think most leaders do. That's a horrible part of any leader's job. And I finished my part, and our vice president of HR taught me a lesson that I hope I've done a better job of since. He looked at the person and said their name and said, "We love you." And I just thought, because I was so nervous, I couldn't stop and see the person. I just went through the process. And he didn't. He just, "We love you." And I was like, oh, that's how you're supposed to do that. And that was, it modified, or at least significantly influenced, how I try to deal with the human side of real business challenges without forgetting that that person is going to have to go home and they're having a way crappier day than I am. Well, I mean, that's the job of the leader, is to check themselves. But it's so hard. It's so hard in an environment, again, where all the comparisons are against profit. And yeah, at some point, what are you chasing that next X number of dollars for? And at whose expense? At the end of our careers, and you talked about sitting on a beach later, at the end of my career, I don't want to talk about all the money made. I mean, certainly if I'm sitting on a beach in Mexico, I've made some money, and people that go into business generally want to do that. But I really hope to talk about lives influenced. I think that's where I'll find the most meaning. So I think where things go is business owners need to be the protector of what matters, and make sure that if there are times in the business's life cycle that are particularly busy, that they're counterbalancing those later and providing opportunity for those employees that just worked so hard to reconnect with what matters to them. And human beings, we're idiots. We think we know what we want, and we don't. We think we want more money, when almost all the science suggests that after some reasonable point, that will add zero will add almost nothing to your happiness and peace. Because like I said, we don't know what we want. If you ask 100 employees if they want $1,000 or an experience, almost all will say $1,000. And in their mind they'll say, but then I can buy the experience I want, and they'll buy no experience. And the science, I think, is incredibly clear on this. Thus, the experience is way better. It's more lasting, it's more meaningful, it's more fulfilling. Yet we're all lining up to get more money. And I understand that too, because when we look at the comparisons that we're all in, that's where we compare. It's how much did you make? And not where did you spend your time. I think the younger generation's doing a better job of that than my generation. They seem to be more invested in the experiences. And luckily we live in such affluence right now that they can do that, which I think is really great. But we as business owners need to keep in mind what matters. Instead of saying, hey, I need you to work this much overtime and I'll throw this much money at you, which will motivate. It still continues to motivate people. We might do better to say, yeah, you'll be compensated fairly for it, but how do we get you more time with the people you care about when this busy season slows down? If we would work on that, I think we would generate more meaning within our own employees' lives, and we would stay focused on what intellectually we know matters, even though we, in practice, have a hard time creating processes that lead to that type of outcome. Well, we have to protect our people. I mean, that's the holidays, for heaven's sakes. Where should they be? Not here. Certainly to the extent that the business needs to operate, it needs to be done. But I think we legitimately believe that work is a means to an end and not an end unto itself. I think that is lost in a lot of places. I will be proud of that too. If at the end of my career, I can say that we created systems and processes that embedded that reality into our company culture. I think our people caring about the client and legitimately caring about their employees has helped those companies to, I hope, have experiences similar to the one I had with that VP of HR. I hope if my team has sat in an office with a client and worked through a really sticky HR issue, that client's walked away saying, oh, there's a process to do this right and avoid liability. And it should be operated, but that doesn't mean we exclude humanity from a situation that demands humanity. If we're going to protect our mutual humanity, we've got to treat people better. And effective HR, or HR done correctly, follows the process and maintains humanity. Well, we've seen a lot of change just in our own organization over 35 years. The modern worker, I don't think the modern worker is that much different than the worker of 30 years ago. Owners are just more thoughtful, more willing to step away from kind of the command and control mentality into an environment where we seek the input of all people, where we understand people want their career to develop. They're looking for more than just a paycheck. They're looking for meaning and purpose and a business philosophy that matches what they want in life. We talked earlier about how young people, I think, understand more the value of experiences over just a paycheck. And luckily, because of that younger workforce, it's forcing business owners to carefully consider past processes and improve on those. That's happening regardless of us and regardless of really anybody else. Thank goodness for bold, young, empowered workers. What we can do as leaders is try to wrap our arms around the value that they bring. And I think that's across the board. As we wrap our arms around their bold approach to their employment, we're going to learn a lot about how we can operate a business better. We're going to look for ways to provide flexibility in schedules or flexibility in work location. Not because some pandemic is forcing us to, although I will admit That was a significant influence on our approach to that type of work. It moved us in a good direction as far as valuing what an employee needs. So we are going to try to approach this modern problem with wisdom that's been around for thousands of years. Do unto others what you would have done unto you. Like, can we just internalize that? Just stop and ask ourselves, what does that actually mean? Why do people start businesses? Because they want flexibility in their schedules. They want autonomy. They want to make meaningful decisions. That's why they started. Makes perfect sense. Do we not believe everybody else wants the same thing? So command control mentality, tight controls on who makes what decisions, important decisions need to be pulled back a little bit as we allow really bright, capable employees to make those decisions and drive our companies forward. We got to give up a little bit and trust people, just like somebody did for us. And that I think that's what'll drive us into the future. I think that's what'll make sure that we're innovating, that we're iterating in ways that meet the need of the end user, of the customer.